What's up, people? This man said something disrespectful of black people. I'm Chibuzo Machuku. I would appreciate you subscribing to my channel and hitting that thumb. This man questioned the existence of black people. I wrote the clips now.
How would black people survive on this planet if white people didn't exist?
What he said is an insult to the black community. There are people that responded negatively to what he said. They come from various races. However, I will show you just whites that spoke against him. I wrote the clips now.
Black people survive on this planet if white people didn't exist. Now, some people might think of this as a joke, but this is actually a very serious question.
The truth is, you will always point your finger at black people because that's what you do. That's what white supremacists do. And you, sir, are a diehard white supremacist. You'll always be pointing your finger at black folks, and you will never point your finger at white people. You will never point your finger and acknowledge what we've done in the most serious way without a big fat deflection, without a big fat denial, without a big fat butt in it.
How would black people survive on this planet if white people didn't exist?
White people weren't here originally. White people are an evolution. How can people be so incredibly stupid and racist? You really think you were here first? Your pasty ass nothingness.
How would black people survive on this planet if white people didn't exist?
Dude is serious. I kept waiting for a punchline or, somebody else's stitch. No, he's serious. I even just looked behind my phone to see if there was more to this, but there's not. How can somebody even think this?
How would black people survive on this planet if white people didn't exist?
I often think of this question, but not in quite that framework. First of all, welfare is used most by white people. And actually, the people that misuse welfare the most are white men in their 40s, around that age. Now, my question is worded a little bit different than yours. I often think of what would have happened if white people had never existed. If there was no colonization, if there was no fight against the earth for resources, if we weren't actively draining these countries that we're providing aid to of their resources, of their natural resources. And instead of those people getting those resources, we take them. And then, we need to send help to Africa. I wonder why. And it is a serious question. What if technology would have advanced with nature versus against it? What if we could have not been the jealous little shits that history has revealed, and people's inventions and people's ideas and all these things weren't stifled? I wonder how much further ahead as a humanity would be.
How would black people survive on this planet if white people didn't exist?
The real question, the actual question, you absolute racist fool, is how would white people survive without black people? For centuries, white nations, white empires have been colonizing African nations and raping them, extracting everything they possibly can, from minerals to oil to food, everything. That's number one. Oh, those nations aren't providing aid. They're taking. They're taking everything they can from African nations. Number two, the United States would not be here as an economy if it wasn't for the slave trade. So just shut up. Just shut up.
How would black people survive on this planet if white people didn't exist?
Sir, I'm going to need you to be so fucking for real right now. Let's start off with America. You referenced Africa and we'll get to that. I'm going to need you to go Google the Tulsa race riots of 1920. Rosewood, Lake Lanier, Georgia. Those were thriving, exclusively black communities that were doing just fine until the white people got jealous and ruined them and murdered a whole bunch of black people. Lake Lanier was literally a whole ass town before white people flooded it. As far as Africa goes, here's a pretty obvious one. Go Google the 1994 genocide in Rwanda. Rwandans asked the UN for help during that whole debacle. And you know why the UN didn't send help? They were hoping that black Africans were going to kill each other off so that they could go in and colonize the natural resources in the area. And there is a long and storied history of white colonizers from Denmark, Germany, Belgium, France, Britain, doing the same thing all over the goddamn continent. And all of that is before we've even touched on the transatlantic slave trade that was started by the Portuguese. More white people shit. So to seriously answer your question, how would black people survive if it were not for white people? They would do quite well. But the reason they don't is because white people do not mind the business that pays them and the cheeks that part for them. Sir, here's where you are, and here's where you belong. Thank you for attending Stay in Your Lane 301. I have been Professor Chicken, and so if you are not going to stay over here, go play here in oncoming traffic, and have a day.
That white supremacist is nothing but an ignorant jerk who cannot say anything great that black people did. He cannot accept it. He would ignore it. He doesn't keep in mind that it is blacks that built America. The various things that blacks did for white people, you'd rather pretend blacks never did anything good. He is so racist. There are some white supremacists who are just like him. They say things similar. They say blacks commit most of the crimes, despite being like 13% of the population. But they would never say that blacks dominate in basketball, despite being that same percentage of the population. They will never say blacks dominate track and field. They will never say positive things done by blacks. They just want to discriminate against blacks. They want blacks to work like slaves. They do something to make blacks look bad. Some of them are jealous of blacks that are rich or that are successful in business. They will do anything to sabotage blacks economically. And let me remind you whites, if a white person is racist, what has that got to do with you? It's just the same thing as what a black criminal has got to do with me or any other black person. That is nothing. Just like robbers, murderers, pedophiles, good people, rich people, and so on. Racists, they come from all races. Why don't you let me know what you think? Thanks for watching.